get some more work done to it, so I done moved them out. And in the meantime, I got a few things done to the Chevy here that was very much needed done. One of them was fixing the parking brake correctly. Now I took a clue off of this fellow Mike, and I'll post his YouTube channel here. But he pulled the arm that the brake pedal rod goes through, and he did a few tack welds on it, and which tightened up the hole, which makes it hold the bar, which makes the parking brake work and not slip. Well, I was going to do the same thing, so that's a very good idea there, Mike. But ended up, the GMC, it doesn't utilize that whole assembly, and it probably hasn't since whenever they hot rodded it up with an automatic transmission. So I pulled that the pedal and the fork and all the parts out that's in the cab, and lo and behold, it's very little used and it works great. So I installed it here in the Chevy, and now I've got a real good parking brake bag. So that's what's one good thing I got. And improving the parking brake is really important when you keep these things in the straight stick. So anyway, all right, one of our rare ventures onto the interstate in the Chevy. Let's see what it'll do. No problem at all, and I can't run around anybody. I can't open it up. Probably go on my speedometer again. There we go. How's it go? Good, I hope. It's been a while since we did a cruise. It's been a while since we did something other than the GMC. We're out in the Chevy taking a nice, beautiful cruise, and like what generally happens, I get to thinking. Sometimes that can be a dangerous proposition. But we're all ready. It's probably around 10 a.m. here Eastern time, and we're already in the 90s. It's hot. My mind tends to think I've got every bit of my vents open and all my windows down, and it's still kind of hot in this old truck. So I got to think about air conditioning. Then I got to thinking about you all. I'd say the vast majority of people watching this channel are like me. When you grew up, you didn't have air conditioning. Not in your house, not in your family vehicle. And probably didn't have it in your schools. At home, you'd probably have screen door, front door, screen back door, screens on your windows, and every window you had open. And your ceilings were 9 to 10 feet tall. And when you went to businesses and tall office buildings, they had those windows above the doors. And I can't think of what they called those windows that would open up. Transom windows, maybe? I'm sure y'all would know. And everybody had fans. You had window fans, stand-up, alone fans. I mean, but we didn't have air. The only time I can remember as a kid getting an air conditioning was if I went to the big chain grocery stores or went to the movies, you know, and otherwise it was windows open and fans. Isn't that something? Well, here I am, me and the wife were talking about it the other day, and you know, one of the highest priorities in both our daily drivers is making sure that that air conditioning works and works properly. I mean, we start a vehicle here in the sun, you know, once the temperatures get hotter than the 70s, mid 70s, we get in our vehicles, we are starting the air conditioner right off the bat, and we're thinking, you know, this is a generation that that we are totally spoiled by air conditioning. I mean, we won't even buy a vehicle, a new vehicle, or a daily driver type vehicle if it doesn't have working air conditioning. Isn't that something? You know, I can recall getting the no air conditioning. To me, that was just like magic. You know, it's like, how in the world can you get cold air out of hot air? And with the heat pump, how you getting hot air out of cold air? That just amazed me. And I remember just across, you go across the mountains here. I'm in eastern Tennessee. You go across the mountains, and there's this big fancy castle called built by the Vanderbilts, and built by the Vanderbilts. Am I right on that? The Vanderbilts? I have to think about that, but it's in Asheville, North Carolina. Biltmore Estate's the name of the place. But they built it in the late 1800s, so that would be what, the 19th century. And they had a generator that would produce DC voltage. That was to light their DC lights. And they also had some refrigerators, some big cooling refrigerators down in the bowels of the castle. And they didn't have Freon. I guess Freon wasn't even devised or invented back then. They used alcohol to transfer the heat. And I thought that was amazing. I found more interest in the electrical and the heating and air part of the description of the tour guide than I did all the fanciness of the actual building itself. So anyway, so air conditioning's been around a while, but it was definitely in the realm of the very rich who were able to either experience it or businesses that would help them in pursuing their business. You know, couldn't get people to come in and watch a movie if you're going to sweat and get too hot, so they come up with air conditioning. So anyway, but I got a brother that's in heat and air, and it's just amazing how Freon and the different how Freon's evolved, and the actual properties that, in a gaseous state, I think it absorbs heat, and in a liquid state, it releases it. Or I could be wrong. I could have it vice versa. But it's just amazing. It's like, what were they working on when they discovered Freon? Were they actually looking for a refrigerant? Or are they trying to discover or make something else, and they discovered this? It's amazing. It's one of the things. I ought to look it up. But anyway, air conditioning. And here I am driving in a 1949 truck, pretty close to stock, and air conditioning wasn't even an option. Matter of fact, a heater was an option. Oh man. think about it. We came from some hardy stock, haven't we? We've evolved to what we are now. And, you know, my children, my daughter, she doesn't know what a world's like without air conditioning. She's had it her entire life. And my grandsons, her kids, they've had it their entire life. They don't know, you know, what it's like to sit in a school classroom and have sweat beating off of you while you're trying to do a test. Well, I guess they do if they don't know the material. But anyway. Now, sometimes you just get some different thoughts as you cruise along. And this old Chevy just, boy, I hate to jinx myself here, but it just does not let me down. It gives me a nice, enjoyable cruise and allows me to ponder things that I don't normally ponder. Air conditioning. Oh, the shade is really cooling off. It's so good. You know, that's still my speedometer rattling like that. And it got to where, you know, if I run this thing hard, I take it out on the interstate or something and I run it, it'll rattle and it'll make all kinds of noises. It'll make you think there's something else wrong in the truck. And I disconnect, what I do to alleviate it, or to patch it, or to band-aid it, is I'll disconnect the speedometer cable from the speedo. And I got some silicone spray, and I'll spray it down the cable, and I'll spray it into the back of the speedo where the cable plugs in. And I plug it back up, and other than lugging it in a low RPM, it smooths out, and it doesn't make them terrible noises. It's an amazing thing. You got to do it. Oh, I don't know. I drive this truck definitely once or twice a week. And when I do, I normally take it on a good cruise, you know, at least 50, 60 miles. I rarely will do a, you know, a short trip in it. I like to get it out and exercise and run it. So, about once every couple months, got to do that. And that way I keep my odometer accurate. And I don't have to send it off to for one of those expensive speedometer repairs. Anyway, GMC, it's about ready to get back out on the road. I got to get on that rear spring. I just ain't feeling it at this particular time. Today's cruise day. Matter of fact, this is cruise week. I do need to go under it though and see if I need to order a shackle. Shackles came with it, but the bolts probably are wore out, and the shackles that came with the springs I got too, so I'll at least crawl in there and check that much out. It's hard to believe it was a video 6 months ago where I was cruising this same road and there was snow on the ground. That's all. Climate change. Not a natural thing. My daughter called me this morning. She was bringing the youngest grandson over. He's driving him off. We watch him on Mondays and Tuesdays. The other grandparents watch them on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And swap about on Friday. But anyway, I had to cut away for a moment. We had some men working there when we had to go down to one lane. But anyway, so she called me and said that the 6-year-old asked her a question, and she didn't really know how to answer it. She asked if I had an opinion on it, and I do. And I gave her what I thought was answer, but I told her, you know, it may not be correct. But anyway, I'm gonna lay it on you all, and let y'all ponder it, and then towards the end of this segment, I'll tell you what I think. But anyway, his question was this: who was the first person to go to heaven? Good, isn't it? If you want to play along, just ponder it. There's no reward or anything, just one of them things that you can kind of guess at it and see what you think. But anyway, again, I had an answer. Now, it may not be correct, but I did have an answer. But anyway, see what you think. Coming up on another stop sign. All right. Out in some open, clean air. You know, another thought I had while cruising along. Hold on. A buddy of mine out there mowing. Anyway, electric vehicles. Kind of an odd topic to think about when you're out cruising in a 1949 Chevrolet pickup with a 1954 gasoline internal combustion engine. But you got to think of the future sometimes. And I like to try to keep up with the trends and everything, and anything to do with automotive, because, well, for as long as I can remember, I've always been fascinated by automobiles. And just anything powered by an internal combustion engine for that matter. But electric, you know, they were trying to come up with electric power. They did, as a matter of fact, make electric powered vehicles back in the 1800s, back when they were developing the gasoline internal combustion engine and the diesel internal combustion engine. They also were trying to get the electric, you know. And well, battery storage has always been a problem. Just think about it back in the 1800s. To me, that's just amazing, the great thinkers from back in the day. You know, our everyday lives are dependent upon inventions devised by people not only 100 years ago or a couple hundred years ago, but centuries ago. When you think about the ancient Egyptians and the Aztecs and all them and the Romans with their aqueducts. But anyway, I don't want to get off on that. I want to stay with the electric vehicles. I saw something the other day that just, to me, it was like, why didn't I think of that? And all you bow tie guys, now you might want to mute for a moment here, because I'm going to mention a word here, an F word that you may not like. But Ford, oh, sorry, I blurted it out. But Ford, you know, they're coming out with their all-electric F-150. You know, all of them are, but one thing that was unique that just totally impressed me about what they're coming up with is that the truck, when fully charged, will be able to make 110 and 220 AC volts, and you could actually use it to power your house in a power failure. And from what I understand, depending upon the load, could go a day or two in that manner. Isn't that something? Just think about it. Normally you've got a plug, you're going to have a charging station at your house to recharge your electric vehicle. And in this case, you can turn the tables and your vehicle can power your house during a power failure. It's like, wow, that's one of those, you know, light bulbs lighting over your head moments. Just so amazing. Since they're doing that, all of them are going to have to, you know, follow suit. So it's just an amazing thing, I think. You know, electric, you know, I think electric's going to, you know, is here to stay, and I think we're going to transition away from the internal combustion engine as the primary power plant for everything that we have. The electric, you know, I'd almost spring for one now. We're thinking about trading the wife's Toyota. Knock on wood, that hasn't given us any problems since 2006. And I kind of think about electric. You know, we really don't go anywhere much that where the range of one wouldn't be a problem. And, you know, we get a charger and actually charge it there at the house, and there's charging stations everywhere anymore. I'd almost consider one, but from what I understand, and I could be wrong, the battery lifespan on these EVs are like 10 years, and there's no way I'd want to buy a brand new one. Well, I don't want to say, I never say never, but I would think the price would be more than I'd want to spend for a brand new one. So we'd be having to look in the used market, and you know, what wears out on these electric cars, of course, are the battery packs. Now I understand there are rebuilders now that you can actually buy rebuilt or not remanufactured, but yeah, I guess rebuilt battery packs that'll carry a 10-year warranty, and it's like an exchange, you know, like a cord exchange, and you can get them for like half the price or even cheaper than what the dealer would ask for, the manufacturer would ask for, the OEM manufacturer would ask for a brand new battery pack. You know, and it's, you know, one thing good about ingenuity is that the further along we get into this stuff, the further along alternatives will come. So I'm thinking about that too. The idea that you could use your vehicle as an emergency backup power for your home, that is intriguing. Brings up a business opportunity I'm thinking about. Of course, I guess I'm well past the time when I guess I'd want to get into something, but I'm thinking about my son-in-law and even grandsons. But the more you have these electric vehicles out on the road, and the more you have people that'll where the batteries won't hold the charge they think it will, and they end up running out of charge when they're out shopping or going somewhere, the need's going to come up for roadside assistance. And one thing I'm thinking about is not only a roll-on tow truck, you know, one of them roll-ons, but it also would have either a gasoline engine, an ICE powered generator that you could do an emergency quick charge on these electric vehicles out on the road. You know, I think you can do a quick charge on some of these things in like a half hour to 30 minutes. So you don't necessarily have to pick it up and tow the vehicle to a charging station. You possibly could give it enough charge to get to that charging station. You know, you could power the generator off your power plant of your truck, your rollback, or you could actually have a standalone. I don't know. I haven't worked out that. Just some thoughts I'm having. Because if it's man-made, it's going to break down. We're in the 90s, but I'm hitting a good 45, 50 mile an hour on this nice, beautifully paved country road with little traffic. guess I'll put it that way. But not impossible. And as long as it's not impossible, I'm still going to try to enjoy the journey. But these destinations, very, very well worth it. Very well. This is just one of them days. And I normally plant my corn the same time this guy does. He's a friend of mine. But I didn't this year, and he's already tasseling. And I'm not even nowhere near it yet. I lagged about 3 weeks behind him. He's got a good stand. He grows his for feed for his cattle. And I guess for personal consumption too, but mainly for feed. Look at that. That's some good looking corn stand. To me, I think the world, I like to look out my back window and see a stand of corn. This year I don't have, normally I'll put out about an acre of some good old hickory cane. But I didn't do it this year. I just put out a patch of sweet corn, Golden Queen, and small antique vehicles. And what's funny is that acre plot that I normally put out the hickory cane, since I didn't plant, seed from last year's corn is taking root, and it's about a quarter of it's up. About a quarter of an acre is coming up all on its own. But it's varying various sizes and stages of maturity, so it's I'd say maybe only half of it will make corn, and we'll get some of it, you know, when it hits time. You got about a 4 or 5 day window when that hickory cane is when you want to pick it for eating. And that's when you coat it with butter and salt, and that's why it's not sweet corn. It's just that butter and salt kind of corn, you know. But after about that 4 or 5 days, you might as well just leave it and let it go to seed, because it'll start hardening. First it'll get rubbery, then it'll start hardening, and then that's why you could use it for just leave it in the field till October or so, or late September, early October, and harvest it for seed and feed for your animals. I guess you could grind it up for flour, and yeah, as a matter of fact, you could, but it's not. You wouldn't want to boil it to eat it or roast it or anything. After that 4 days, it's once it comes in, you got about 4 to 5 days, and then just leave it on there, and then let it mature for seed and feed. Anyway. High schoolers made that mural, painted it. And that's something. I wanted to show y'all a couple things here. This is, if you look at there, the guy's name was Jacob Beeler. Looks like he started as a private, became a captain. Pemberton's Company, North Carolina Troops, Revolutionary War. Battle of Kings Mountain. The Over Mountain Men. All right, that's one. This is his brother who participated. No dates as far as when they lived or died, other than they participated in that Battle of Kings Mountain during the Revolutionary War. And there's Beelers, and if you look, there's a lot of Beelers. But this is the I don't know, when you start getting some years on you, you think your final resting place. I can't think of a nicer place, to tell you the truth. Anyway, thought I'd share that with you. coming up on the right is where my wife's mama was raised. That house is well over 100 years old. Now, right around this bend down here, I'll show you here momentarily. I've pointed this out in previous videos, but I'll just do it again. But here on the right used to be the farm of Old Lee Long, the original owner of this truck. The house is gone, the barn's gone, everything's gone now. But and this truck's almost like an autopilot. It's like I drive it out here and this is where I always end up. It's amazing, isn't it? It's like this truck knows it's from here. Kind of a little background. I visited, we went and saw Doyle, who I've done an interview before here at my place, but he's the son of the original owner of this truck. My wife's cousin. I incorrectly call him her uncle, but actually it's her cousin. He learned to drive in this. All of us, him and his brothers, all learned to drive in this, and his mama. And we had some good laughs talking about some stories about this old truck. You know, everything was optional back in the day in '49. When Lee bought this truck, he put half down and drove off with it. And paid it off. I think it was a month later, paid the balance off. So he made two payments on this truck, a down payment and then the payoff payment. If I remember right, it was around $1,200, something like that. And that would have been in '49. And like I say, everything was optional. He went ahead and sprung for the optional horn, the optional bypass oil filter that came on that they put on the original 216 engine, and he went for the 650 16 tires as opposed to the 600 16 tires. So he got slightly bigger tires. Now, he did opt for, at the time, to go for the heater. Now, I don't know if it was because he bought it the spring and felt like he didn't need it, or if he was just going to wait to build the money up for it. But he didn't get the heater until the following late fall of that same year. And he bought it. It was an Arvin recirculating heater from the dealer, and him and his sons, they installed it. Now, if you want to look back, and I'll put a link up here, a little pop-up card, but that heater is still working to this day. Now, I took it out of the Chevy here and put it in the GMC, because I went ahead and bought a deluxe heater to put in this. But anyway, I'm talking about the original heater core from '49, the original 6-volt blower fan from '49. The case that it all came in is all still original and working in the GMC. Talk about your longevity. Now, the deluxe heater I put here in the Chevy, see it down there, I had to put a new heater core in it. The core in it was, I tried to solder it and I couldn't, I just had more leaks than I could find to fix. I'd solder a leak and another one. So I just went ahead and put a new core in it. And fan motor was good, but it was not the stock fan. It was because it was 12 volts. So somebody had already swapped out the fan motor, and that's possible that that was not the stock original heater core either, but I had to replace the heater core, but the motor was good. You gonna come out after me? Yep. But it was neat the way you know, they had a family car. This was their farm truck. They were farmers back then, raised cattle. He parked it. Now he kept the farm, but they moved into town, and he got a job at a big chain grocery store, local chain at the time, and that's where he worked till he retired. And they lived in town, and they kept the truck out at the farm because he kept the farm, and they'd run it out there and keep it for work. But sometime in '69, he brung it in and parked it in his city house in the basement garage, and that's where it sat until he passed away in, when was it? 99, I think. Yeah, I think it was a 99. Then they, the house went to a niece, and they pulled everything out, including this truck, and took it up to a house up in New Tazewell, put it in a barn, and titled it to Doyle's granddaughter. Now, Doyle being the son of the original owner, so they titled it to the great-granddaughter of the original owner. Now, you know, being a farm truck and in rough condition, granddaughter, she didn't want nothing to do with it, so it stayed there in the barn until they told me about it. Then we got to talking, and I went up and looked at it, and I said, oh yes, I'll buy it. I'll definitely buy it. Now, we negotiated. It seemed like it was a month. It could have been a little longer, but it was a while. And then they finally come back and said, yep, we'll accept your offer, we'll go for it. And she went, and so I bought it and hauled it back to the house, and that's how it became mine. And I want to think that was in, gosh, when was that? It's at least 7 years ago, might be 8. This is 2021, 2012 maybe? 2013, somewhere around in there. So we went up there, pulled it out of the barn, and brought it to the house. And, well, the rest is my history. I intend upon keeping it. There's no desire or will to sell or trade this truck. And so it should hand down to my daughter and son-in-law, and perhaps my grandsons. And I want it to remain as close to stock as possible, you know, with the minimal upgrades. So whenever they drive it, they'll know what it would be like to drive a 1949 vehicle in whatever year they're living in at that time. So anyway, I still have the original 216. You know, I talk about I'd like to rebuild it one day. That may or may not happen, I don't know. But I will continue to keep it until I either rebuild it or they do something with it. It's not going anywhere. Anyway, so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Those of y'all may know that, but I thought I'd add that along. It's like I got a flashing camera battery. Looks like we're about to run out of power, and I'm about to run out of things to talk about anyway. So let's get back to put some tunes on, continue with the cruise, and I'll talk to you later. good cruise. I know we didn't get anything done on this cruise, but in this segment, but it was a good cruise, and I just thought I'd take you along with me and share some thoughts. Been working a lot on that GMC lately, and the old Chevy just it was time for it to take us out and let us enjoy some of the fruits of all them labors. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Oh, and the answer, you remember? The answer I had for the very first person to go to heaven was Abel. Think about it. So anyway, hope you're having a good one. Hope everything's going good with you and yours. Going good here. Can't complain if it was anyway. So just take care of the business, get it done, and I'll see you around on the next one. See you.